Duncan walked through the ebbing flood, water splashing against his calves, flanked by dozens of his men as they trekked through the floating graveyard. Hundreds of Pandesian corpses floated by, bumping against his legs as he sloshed through what remained of the Everfall flood. As far as he could see stretched a sea of corpses, Pandesian soldiers washing up from the overflowing canyon, being swept out to the desert in the receding waters. It was the solemn air of victory. Duncan looked down at the canyon, overflowing with water, still spewing out corpses by the minute as it bubbled over, and he turned and looked at the horizon, toward Everfall, where the gashing torrents had slowed to a trickle. Slowly he felt the thrill of victory well up inside him. All around him, the air began to buzz with the victorious cheers of his stunned men, all trekking through the waters in disbelief, all slowly realizing that they had actually won. Against all odds they had survived, had conquered the much greater legion. Leafall had come through after all. Duncan felt a surge of gratitude to his loyal soldiers, to Leafall, Anvin, and most of all his son. In the face of grim odds, none had backed down in fear. There came a distant rumble, and Duncan checked the horizon and was overjoyed to see Leafall and his men of Leptus, Anvin and Aidan amongst them, White running at their feet, all returning from Everfall, riding back to reunite with them. They were joined by Leafall's small army, hundreds of men, their shouts of triumph audible even from here. Duncan looked back to the north, and spotted on the distant horizon a world filled with black. There, perhaps a day's ride away, sat the remainder of the Pandesian army, rallying, preparing to avenge their defeat. Next time they would not attack with 10,000 men, Duncan knew, but with 100,000. Duncan knew time was short. He had been lucky once, but there was no way he could withstand an attack from hundreds of thousands of soldiers, not even with every trick in the world. And he had exhausted all his tricks. He needed a new strategy, and he needed it fast. As his men gathered around him, Duncan searched all the hard and earnest faces, and knew these great warriors looked to him for leadership. He knew that whatever decision he made next would affect not just him, but all of these great men, indeed the entire fate of Escalon. He owed it to them all to choose wisely. Duncan racked his brain, willing the answer to come to him, pondering all the ramifications of any strategic move. All moves carried great risk, all carried dire repercussions, and all were even riskier than what he had done here in the canyon. "Commander," came a voice. Duncan turned to see the serious face of Kavos looking back at him with respect. Behind him, hundreds of men stared back too. They were all awaiting direction. They had followed him to the brink and had come out alive, and they trusted him. Duncan nodded, breathing deeply. "We meet the Pandesians in the open field," he began, "and we lose. They outnumber us still 100 to 1. They are also better rested, armed, and equipped. We would all be dead by sunfall." Duncan sighed, his men hanging on his every word. "Yet we cannot run," he continued, "nor should we. With the trolls too attacking and the dragons circling, we've no time to hide or fight the guerrilla war. Nor is hiding our way. We need a bold and quick and decisive strategy to defeat the invaders and rid our country of them once and for all." Duncan fell silent for a long time, pondering the near impossible task ahead. All that could be heard was the sound of the wind rippling off the desert. "What do you propose, Duncan?" Kavos finally prodded. He looked back at Kavos, gripping and ungripping his halberd, staring back with intensity as his words rang in his head. He owed these great warriors a strategy, a way not just to survive, but to victory.